Hi, I'm Jimmy Colefax, and this is The Story. Our guest today is once again Pastor David Shaw from Perth, who's sharing his life journey and about how he responded to racist comments he received after he posted a photo of his mixed race family online. Before the break, we heard how David met his wife Becky in South Korea and how they eventually relocated to Australia. Next, we'll learn about their children and more about how to respond to racism. David Shaw is chatting with Eric Scatterbo.
Also, the Lord has blessed you with 3 children. We want to have you talk about each of them individually because they all have their unique gifts and talents, and all of them love the Lord. Is that right?
As much as children can. We haven't baptized them yet, but they are, they're at church with us every Sunday, and they enjoy it, and we talk about the faith and pray with them on a regular basis.
Yeah, well, actually, let me back up. Now, originally, when we started this conversation, we talked about how there were some online racist comments that people made because they saw a photo of your family and how you're interracial, interethnic, I guess you could say. And, they made these rude comments about how you're diluting your bloodline and all that kind of stuff. And you replied by saying, hey, my family is made in the image of God and we serve the Lord. Mm-hmm. And then you went on to post a photo of each of your family members and giving a little bit of a background of each of them. So let's back up and talk about the photo of you and your wife. You're holding her and she's laughing. You say she's the matriarch. She loves Jesus. She's Korean, a pastor's daughter, incredibly intelligent, bilingual, majored in English linguistics, master's in theology. She's a foodie, a master baker. Wow, you are blessed, and you are skinny. I don't understand this. Also, you said she's a loving mother, piano player, pastoral heart, light of your world, legend. Yeah. Wow. Well, you are blessed. So you've been together for how long now?
We're coming up to, this will be 15 years this year.
Okay. And now we'll move to your oldest son.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about him.
Owen, 12 years old, just started high school. And he is quite the musician, and he plays double bass. That's his sort of primary instrument. He plays piano as well, but he hates that. We're trying to help him to love that again. And he does taekwondo.
And you wrote here that he was the winner of his school's citizenship award.
He was, yeah. We didn't even know that was coming. So he graduated primary school last year, and he and along with another gal were co-winners of the Citizenship Award. So, we're very proud of him. Yep.
Next, we're moving on to your daughter.
Yep, Gianna. She's a gymnast. Does competitive gymnastics and really loves it. We don't force that on her. I only ask her one question after gymnastics every time she goes in. That's, did you have fun? And as long as she says yes, we're happy to keep doing that. Mm-hmm. She's very intelligent. Might have a bit of musicianship about her as well. She's beginning to learn clarinet, and she's a gal who loves the Lord and
loves to read. She's currently reading the Old Testament.
She's a reader, voracious.
At 10 years old.
So you know how you've got the storybook Bibles, the Jesus storybook Bible, the Big Picture storybook Bible, and we've had about 4 or 5 different ones of those. She's read them all.
Oh wow!
And so she wants the real deal now. So we're working through a full-on sort of early teen study Bible with her. And she was, last I checked in, she was motoring through Genesis.
Oh, good on her.
And she's the kind of, like, how do you yell at a kid for reading under their bed sheets at 10 o'clock at night? It's like,
shame on you for reading that Bible.
It's adorable, It's like, I can't be mad at my kid for reading late into the night. It's beautiful. Like, she wakes up bleary-eyed in the morning, but.
And then finally, your youngest son?
Hugh. He's the firebrand. Very adventurous. He's one of those kids who's ambition over ability. Sometimes he's had the most trips to hospital.
Oh.
But by virtue of trying to keep up with big brother and sister, and
okay.
Like adventurous and affable, and he loves his basketball and his taekwondo, and he's the one who's been most vocal about wanting to get baptized, and so
is that
that's
right?
what we're working on.
Okay.
He's a fun kid. We love him to bits.
3 beautiful children. And taking this conversation full circle, the only reason that I know of you was because I just happened to see your posting online on social media, because unfortunately, some people were offended by your family photo and of having an inter-ethnic family. And so I just thought maybe we could wrap up our conversation with, have you ever had any other experiences like that? Was that the first time somebody kind of commented on the fact that you're a mixed race family?
I'd have to dig right back. It's certainly the most recent and most intense. I think there was maybe an episode 4, 5, maybe 6 years ago
when you
Twitter
say
as well.
When you say it was intense, how was it intense?
It was just a lot in a very short period of time. It was just a very concentrated pile-on.
Wow. By these online trolls, I guess. Is that the word, trolls? They like to stir up trouble?
I think so. And so I put that picture out, the initial picture, I put that out as an act of solidarity with another pastor based in the US who was responding to a particular person who had suggested that if you have different colored children in your family, you're not fit for pastoral ministry.
Really?
Really.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I posted that picture on his timeline, sort of a fist bump.
Oh, you were supporting him. Yeah. And then I contacted you in solidarity with you as well.
Yeah. And so that's when it sort of blew up, and a few people retweeted the picture of my family with ill intent. And then I read through maybe the first half a dozen comments, and I could just see the pile-on beginning. And
from racists.
Yeah. Yep. And so I checked out at that point. Yeah. So I checked out. I didn't read any more, but I took a screenshot of one of the more offensive tweets, and I basically just said, look, this is not healthy conduct in any context. I've reported this particular person, and you should too.
Yeah.
And then in response to that, like you say, I posted, I wanted to humanize my family. Mm-hmm. I didn't want the trolls, if you like, to have the final say.
Yeah.
And so it was a very it was quite an intense emotional and spiritual week in that regard.
Yeah. How did you react? How did you feel about all this?
It was sad in a way. It does make you wonder what people are ingesting into their souls.
Yeah, for them to even say this kind of hateful stuff.
And I mean, like I say, you asked if I'd experienced this before, but in years gone by, I remember having someone on Twitter jump on me and basically saying I was no longer of use to the white cause.
Oh boy! Oh my goodness.
I didn't know that. I didn't know there was a white cause. But glad not.
But
to be
that's
part
how
of
they
it.
view things. They're looking at life through the prism of races and ethnicities. And if you view life through that prism, then what you're doing and what I have done, having interracial children, that's a no-no. That's a terrible thing. That's viewed as diluting the races.
Yeah. The dilution thing is an interesting word. I prefer to see it as an enrichment.
Amen, brother. Yes,
I think
exactly.
I've lost nothing of who I was. In marrying my wife, but I've gained so much.
Yeah. Amen.
And my kids get the benefit of both worlds.
Mm-hmm.
To anyone who would suggest that it's a diminishment or a dilution, I would say no, it's an enrichment.
And how about your wife, Becky? How did she respond when she heard those hateful, racist comments?
Yeah, she was saddened and disappointed like I was, but I don't think there was any sense of threat. There's a distance between Perth and the US where those comments were coming from that helped keep it at arm's length. But we talked about it a little bit, and we determined that we wouldn't share this with our kids. It was, the nature of the comments was probably a little over the top, and we wouldn't want to share those with our kids just yet. That might be for some time down the line. And we've had these conversations with our kids because they've seen friends have experiences and they've asked about that. And so we've talked about it, but more at their level. And we just don't think this is a healthy one to talk about just yet. I think that's one for down the line. but it provided the opportunity to promote the good and the healthy, and people can make up their own minds. And I'd like to think that in my interactions, I was level-headed. I could have really lost the plot.
There would be that temptation to possibly want to tell them off because of, saying mean things about your family, but you responded in a loving way, Christ-like.
Well, yeah, I suppose the goal was not to so much interact with the trolls, as it were, those trolling us, but to actually promote the good. And, one of my core convictions that I try to live out as best I can, part of my PhD study was on First Peter. And there's a really beautiful text in there which talks about be a blessing even to those who would cause you suffering. Like, bless, for to this you are called, that you may obtain a blessing. And that encouragement is given in a context where the church is suffering at the hands of their neighbors, colleagues, the imperial authorities. And it's a way of following in the footsteps of Jesus, that when reviled, he did not revile in turn. And I wanted to try and model something of that in a positive way. Like, I reported a guy and asked Twitter to take action against that kind of conduct because I don't think it's acceptable. And if he's done it to me, he's probably done it to others and would do it to more people. And I think that the loving thing in that regard to do is to actually protect the vulnerable, and you protect the vulnerable and the victims. And that's why you report that kind of conduct. But on the other hand, rather than jumping in and engaging in a back and forth, I wanted to show the beauty, the goodness, the humanity of our family, because they are made in the image of God, and we are blessed to be a blessing, even in the face of insults and reviling, which is what we experienced last week. But I don't bear ill will towards anyone who said what they said. I long for their hearts to be changed.
Yeah. I think the sign of true maturity in our walk with the Lord is when we're offended, when somebody says something hurtful to us. We know, hey, maybe that hurt is coming from a hurtful place in their lives. Like you originally said, maybe something happened in their story. And so being hurtful back to them is not going to help anything. But hopefully responding in love can get them to think a bit and hopefully change. And as you and I would be for them to become Christians and love everybody.
Yeah. I mean, that's the ideal, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to take people on their own terms and to not see them as an enemy.
And as I mentioned earlier, man looks at the outside, God looks at the heart. God looks at both you and Becky's hearts and your children's hearts and their walk with him and their spiritual depth. And that's what's important to God. And that's what should be important to all of us.
Yeah. And then to be a person characterized by blessing, that people know you as the kind of person who's generous, kind-hearted.
The fruits of the Spirit. Yeah.
Looking out for the best interests of, exactly. The fruit of the Spirit. Exactly.
David Shaw, thank you so much for sharing your story and about what you've gone through. And again, so sorry that you've gone through those hurtful comments, but thankful that you responded in a Christ-like way. And we pray that your light will shine. You and Becky and your whole family, your lights will shine and be a positive influence and a blessing to all that you come in contact with. So thank you so much for sharing today.
Thanks for having me, Eric. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, that was part 2 of Eric Scadabow's conversation with Pastor David Shaw. And it was great to hear how David decided to respond in love to the hurtful, racist comments he received after posting a photo of his mixed-race family online. As we heard, the Bible verse that guided David was 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 9, which says, "Do not repay evil with evil or insult with insult. Instead, repay evil with blessing. For we are to be kind to others and God will bless us for it. To find out more about David's church in Perth, where he is an associate pastor, their website is providencechurch.org.au. Once again, that's providencechurch.org.au. Well, thanks for joining us for part 2 of David Shaw's story and his insights into how to respond to racism. Until next time, I'm Jimmy Colefax, encouraging you to share your story with someone today.
The Story. Just another way Vision is helping you look to God daily.